folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode are a couple of supplements for the All Flesh Must Be Eaten role-playing game. For those of you who've been watching us for a while, for those of you who've been around, know that All Flesh was our first book we reviewed for Game Geeks. And actually, All Flesh goes all the way back to the first book that I ever reviewed with Game Geeks, back when we were still on public access. So, I have a special spot in my heart, my carnally destroyed heart, for All Flesh. The two books we're reviewing today are Atlas of the Walking Dead and One of the Living. All Flesh has sort of been the heart and soul of the Unisystem line for a while. And what they've mainly done is publish genre guides, for lack of a better word, for the All Flesh line. And what they do is they introduce certain genre conventions, new rules, new qualities and drawbacks, skill uses, etc. for the genres. For example, and some of the ones we reviewed, there's Dungeons and Zombies for a fantasy genre, All Tomorrow's Zombies for sci-fi, you've got A Fistful of Zombies, which I think is my favorite name, for the Western setting, Enter the Zombie for martial arts, there's Pulp Zombie for sort of the 1930s pulp feel. Another one that we reviewed recently, which is There Be Zombies, for a pirate feel. And finally, there is Zombie Smackdown, which is like professional wrestling with zombies. Yeah. Anyway, so these two, Atlas of the Walking Dead and One of the Living, are not genre supplements. What these do is these focus in on different things you can use for your All Flesh game. We'll start with Atlas of the Walking Dead. One of the biggest advantages to All Flesh Must Be Eaten is the extremely modular zombie design, where you can basically mix and match powers, widgets, whatever you want for your zombie, everything from your standard brains, walking shamblers, to zombies that explode into acid when they die, to ones that are smart and quick and can use tools, to ones that drain your soul by kissing you, like you'd let a zombie close enough to kiss you. Those all work well and good, and there's a lot you can build with those. Atlas of the Walking Dead takes the approach of looking at world legends, myths, religions, etc., and pulling out individual bits of undead from each one of those and building them for the All Flesh line. So what you get in here is, in addition to your standard brains from All Flesh, you have things like the Gaki, and I apologize, I'm mispronouncing that, which is a small Japanese undead monster which pops up in some of their myths quite a bit. Then you have things like a Revenant, which is just a dead soldier that has come back, to the Draugr, which are the drowned frozen zombie corpses. One of the more interesting things in here that I liked were two approaches on the vampire. One of them is the classic blah, blah, blah vampire that you run into a lot from the Bela Lugosi school of thought. The other one I liked is more the vampire from the Almost Vampires with a $sign movie from John Carpenter, or the more mindless, blood-drinking, less suave Eurotrash, more, well, bluntly, zombie-like vampire that you can fight. So what you can do is look at something like the femme fatale archetype in here. In addition to the stats it also gives you different regions that you can focus in on and how that particular monster would change according to those regions. For example, you've got the Baban Sith, and I'm mispronouncing that, which is a Scottish sort of approach to the femme fatale, to the Muli, which is European, to the Mara, which is Scandinavian, and sort of gives you little details on how to modify each one for that area. The second book I want to talk about now is One of the Living, which is probably the closest thing to a player's guide that you're going to get for All Flesh Must Be Eaten. In One of the Living, what you have is an expansion on what it is to survive a zombie apocalypse. And not just from the, I'm going to, keep running. It's how do you survive? How do you rebuild society? How do you build a safe haven, etc.? And if you're watching AMC's The Walking Dead, you can know that this sort of genre has legs. All Flesh is really good for the outbreak and surviving the first 2 weeks after the outbreak. But the book itself doesn't give you a whole lot of detail about how to survive beyond run or shoot it in the head. This gives you a lot of ideas and some sociological theory on how to rebuild society after everything goes to crap, just specifically from The Walking Dead. Now, it gives you some new qualities and some new drawbacks. It gives you scavenging rules, how to put together a gasoline engine from a paper clip, a paper towel roll, and some raisins, if you're a real MacGyver type. It also sort of gives you broader sociological implications, like different factions that are bound to pop up in an environment, such as, you've got 3 or 4 different groups of people that have all kind of nucleated into those groups, and they're trying to figure out how to co-survive in a common place like a mall or on a farm. The example they give you in here is a jail that several groups of people have wound up in, and one of the things that you can really do as the GM is set up a lot of opportunities for them to screw up and get each other killed. And that's really one of the things you can and probably should do in a zombie game. Additionally, it gives you some dead worlds at the back that take the point of view of the rise happened some time ago and is still ongoing, and it's your characters have to interact with a society that's been rebuilt. 2 of my favorites were the Croatan Rising, which sort of takes the point of view of Lovecraft meets Clive Barker's Hellraiser meets a zombie apocalypse, and I also really liked the On the Ground Floor, which sets up this society where you live in the cities and you've expanded bridges between the skyscrapers and the zombies can't get up, and it's this new society that's built up of the Sky People and the different castes and levels of society that these particular groups have built up. For some reason, that really tripped my bells too. So, again, back for All Flesh. If you want to go see what All Flesh books we've reviewed, you can go to GameGeeksRPG.com. Starts back all the way with number 1. We also are very active on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, so please take a look at us there. These books, Atlas of the Walking Dead, if you want a broad cross-section of undead to deal with, and One of the Living, which is the player's guide and sort of sets up how to play this game long-term. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.